Hey everybody, it's Greg Rice. We're here in Tiverton, Rhode Island, and we're with Kendra and Mike. Kendra and Mike are both homeowners of a two-family property here, and Kendra actually reached out to me through Facebook in regards to the House bill that is currently being talked about now, which would put a stop and a moratorium on all evictions and terminations of tenancy. Now, Kendra, your tenants in the front house have stopped paying their rent.
This is correct. They have not paid this month and have been late or extremely late every month since I bought the property back in November.
Wow. And what would that mean for you if you couldn't evict them, if they were going to stay here for another year rent-free?
Well, without their income, then I would stand to lose my entire life savings that I've put into this property. I wouldn't be able to make the mortgage payments. It would affect me being able to pay property taxes, do any kind of upkeep or maintenance on the property, and it would eventually put me into foreclosure and or bankruptcy.
And what message do you have for lawmakers in Rhode Island in regards to this bill? What do you want them to consider, and maybe even a compromise that could help the tenants and the landlords alike?
Well, I think that what we could do for compromise would be if the state decides to put this moratorium on evictions, they need to consider how they're going to compensate small mom and pop landlords like myself.
Absolutely.
For the rent, because I can't be left without any
Right.
income whatsoever from an income property.
Have the tenants worked with you at all, or kept you in the loop, or
No,
are they just going silent?
She has gone silent, refuses to communicate with us in any way.
Or even to let us inside the property.
Really?
Yes. By law, we're legally allowed to go inside the property after a 48-hour notice in the state of Rhode Island, but they've denied that.
Do you think that they know, that they're kind of at an advantage here and that they're just going to
Absolutely.
coast it out?
Absolutely.
And do you think other tenants in Rhode Island will get that same vibe and try to do that same thing?
I do think that that's a absolute risk that we're running, because they're going to know that they have no repercussions for any of their actions or not paying rent. And in my particular case, her reasoning for not paying rent has nothing to do with COVID or the current state of emergency. She has full-time employment.
Really?
In my case, it has nothing to do with, the current state of emergency.
And how much is the rent in that front house?
Well, this is part of the problems that we're having is when we moved in, she had been Section 8.
Okay.
And she was responsible for a little over $600 a month out of her own pocket. And the town of Tiverton Housing Authority was paying a little over $1,400 a month for that. She has since been dropped from Section 8 because she refused to verify her income through them and refused to communicate to any of their other correspondents. And so since she was pretty much radio silent, they dropped her from the system. So now I'm no longer getting the Section 8 money or her money out of her portion of the rent.
So $2,000 a month is what the rent is that she
About
is responsible.
$2,100, yeah.
Wow. And
in
your
total.
mortgage is how much?
About $26.
Wow. So that's like 80% right there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you bought this property with the safety net of having that rental property.
And that's why we chose to stay
in smaller.
in a tiny house, about 700 square feet, to make our living expenses affordable. And unfortunately now,
Because me, I don't have an income right now. I'm a disabled veteran. I'm medically retired from the Marine Corps. And my industry, what I did after I got out of the Marine Corps, is no longer. I was in the oil and gas industry.
Gotcha.
And so that's no more.
Mm-hmm.
So everything's solely on her.
yeah, and
And-
I'm a nurse and I'm working full-time nights, picking up extra shifts, trying to make
Yeah.
ends meet, picking up extra little part-time jobs here and
Yeah.
there, any way that I can make a few dollars, because I'm scared to death that my, American dream here is
Yeah.
going to be yanked out from underneath my feet before I even get started.
And one thing that folks at home should consider is they live on the same property. So another thing to consider is, now, do you feel that your safety is at risk?
I feel like my safety is at risk for a couple of different reasons. Not only am I afraid of losing my own home as a result of this, because I do live on the property,
Yep.
but we have been threatened by the tenant's boyfriend,
Who is not on the lease.
who is not on the lease, not supposed to be there. He's come up on our front steps and right at the threshold and threatened us
Wow.
twice over the past 6 or 7 months, I'd say.
And there's police documents too.
Yes, we unfortunately
Back it
had
up.
to get police involved to come to the house and make sure that was documented and whatnot.
That's a big thing, because a lot of landlords live on the properties. They live in a 3-family, maybe they live on the first floor and rent the second and third.
Yes.
So a lot of thought needs to be put into personal and physical safety, because you could see them from here. You guys are sharing a driveway and even a walking path.
Absolutely. And, it's been a problem where, me working nights, coming and going at strange hours, I'm hyper aware of my
Right.
surroundings.
Third shift you're working.
And they also have a pit bull dog that is not supposed to be there. Per the lease, it's no pets. It's unleashed a lot. There's concern about that. There's also been problems with the neighbors and the tenants. That's caused friction in the neighborhood because of the unleashed pit bull and whatnot.
Even down to the fact of even us having our own rights. Like I said, I'm a retired Marine. I do go to the shooting range.
Mm-hmm.
Even we've had incidents where the dudes got in my face. I'm a combat veteran. And even to tell the officers that I have weapons, because I go to the shooting range, so they've evidently seen them transporting them into the vehicles. Things like that's an issue too, because now I don't know what he has.
Right.
And I know he's a felon. And I can't even tell him he can't be on the property, even though he's not on the lease. They are the definition of a predatory tenant.
Yeah.
So basically the law is 100% on their side.
As it
And
stands.
not on ours.
And now it's
Even
going to
as
get
it
worse.
stands, yes.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, this new bill would absolutely put all landlords at risk of these kind of predatory tenants that know that the landlord has no repercussion and that they can do whatever they want to do.
And ruin a beautiful community such as this.
Yes,
too.
and that is another thing too, is this neighborhood, that is another reason why she chose to buy here, because this entire neighborhood, whether it be across the street or even along here, we know every single one of our neighbors.
Yeah, and they're wonderful people.
Yes.
It's a great, close-knit
Beautiful.
community where people look out after each other, and it's...
And when our tenants start causing problems with our neighbors, that becomes an issue too, which has happened.
Yeah, it makes you
And
guys
there's-
look bad too.
Well, not just that, it makes the neighborhood feel unsafe.
Right.
We've already, those are police reports on record as well, where the tenants have caused issues with the neighbors in the neighborhood. Once again, that's not a good thing either, and that means that homeowners that pay taxes are going to have to deal with people like this if the bill goes through, because then
Yeah.
it's basically there's no way to get them out.
Right. Now, do you have any final remarks, anything that you want to add for the folks at home that maybe aren't landlords and don't understand this fully? Is there anything more that you want to end with?
Well, I think one thing that maybe somebody who's not a landlord needs to be aware of is how this could impact property values in neighborhoods that have maybe a few rentals like this does, when the landlord's not able to make repairs or upgrades, maintain, the property.
Yep.
And it's going to drive down property prices, and it'll increase foreclosures in the area, and it's just going to be a lose-lose situation for everybody. This is not a solution to the problems we're having right now.
And that's also how you end up having rental properties that are slums, because then the owners can't afford to fix them.
Right. Wow. Well, thank you both for your time. And if anybody has any questions, throw them in the comments section below and we'll get right back to you. Once again, Greg Rice, we're here in Tiverton. Thank you so much for your time. Your property managed.